Hey, welcome back. This is Sarcasm Speaks, Jared and Bob here, coming at you. Um, I want to get to um, why Trump is going to fix everything in a minute, but the first thing I want to start out with is Elon Musk and DOGE um, is going through like Social Security and starting to figure out that like there's a lot of fuckery going on with the Social Security Department. So I found this tweet. Elon Musk put it out the other day, and it is according to the Social Security database, these are the number of people in each age bucket with the death field set to false. So what that means is like the Social Security Department has these people registered as being alive, right? So then he goes, because he's Elon Musk and he can't help himself. He said maybe Twilight is real and there's a lot of vampires collecting Social Security. So um, the age brackets are broken out by every decade, right? So every 10 years. So you have a 0 to 9, 10 to 19, so on and so forth, right? So I'm going to use rounded numbers through the first bunch and then I'll stop when things start to get a little weird. So the first one is going to be 0 to 9. There's about 39 million people. 10 to 19 is about 44 million. The next bracket is 48 million. The 30s would be the 52. 40s is 48 million. 50s is 46 million. 60s is 46 million. 70s is 33 million. 80s is 15 million. Now things get a little goofy. According to Social Security, there's 6 million people between the ages of 90 and 99 that are considered alive. Then, by the way, this goes all the way up to 360 years old. So, 100 from 100 to 109, there's allegedly 4.7 million people in the Social Security system between 100 and 109. Um, I know there's a few centenarians, right, that are out there in the United States. Um, but that
Shocked if there were 4 million
there ain't
people
4.7
100
million.
years or older in the entire planet.
Yeah. Let's see. How many centenarians are in the US? Let's ask ChatGPT. As of 2024, approximately 101,000 Americans are aged 100 or older. So that's everyone over 100 in the United States, roughly 100,000. Social Security has 4.7 million just between 100 and 109. But wait, there's more. 110 to 119 is 3.6 million. 120 to 129 is 3.5 million, right? So we're going down a little bit. Oh, wait, no, we're not. From 130 to 139, we go back up to 4 million. From 150 to 159, there's 1.3 million. From 160 to 169 years old, right? Let me throw that out there again. This is age we're talking about. 160 to 169 years old, 122,000 people. Well, surely that has to be where it ends, right? Nope, it continues. 170 to 179, there's 6,000. There are 700 people registered between 180 and 189. 450 people between 190 to 199. And then, wouldn't you know, there's roughly 900 people that are docentenarians? Docentenarian? I don't know. They're 200 years old. From 200 to 209. Then from 210 to 219, there's 866. From 220 to 229, there's 1,000 people, 1,039 to be specific. So there's more people in Social Security's records that are 220 to 229 than there are, all the way back until they're 170. And then we get a bit of a jump. There is one person registered in the system between 240 to 249 years old. And there is also one person registered from 360 to 369 years old. So,
So something that kind of a question I was going to pose, and this kind of debunks that question because I know it's stupid, all the money the government is spending on all this bullshit, but once they uncover it all, where does it go? Do we see it? Do taxes go down? Do we get more stuff? Do we get more things? What's the end goal here? Because I keep seeing it. They keep going into this agency, that agency,
right.
fraud this, fraud that, whatever. And I'm like trying to fast forward in my head. I'm not smart enough. Like, where does this eventually end? This debunks that whole question because we keep hearing, there won't be any Social Security. There won't be any Social Security. You're not going to have it by the time you retire.
Yeah, it's
Well,
because
apparently
there's
not,
there's
because
people registered and they're
hundred,
200 years old.
there's millions, probably not hundreds of millions, but there's millions of people
Tens of millions.
theoretically receiving Social Security benefits that are seriously fucking dead.
Yes.
Not just like a little dead, like really dead.
Yep. So,
And well, and obviously like Social Security is one of those ones like it should go up your ass sideways that we still pay for it, even though the program theoretically won't be there for us to cash into it.
yeah, well, it's fraudulent payments, right? That's going on. Because that's the other question too, is a lot of people are saying who's getting this money. So to be completely fair, and this did come up in an episode of the Drinking Bros podcast that I was just listening to. So Dan Holloway brought it up. He said it's unclear to me too, and it was unclear at that time as well. What what's all of the picture, right? So the way this is depicted is an age range and a count, right, of how many people in the Social Security system are set to false, right? So is there another column that says receiving payment, right? Like we don't know. Like to and again, just to try and be as down the middle as possible with this. Um, we don't know that this necessarily means that they're paying out 3.5 million people between the ages of 140 and 149. All of this proves on the surface level is that there's 3.5 million people registered as being alive in the Social Security system from 140 to 149 years
Someone
old.
very well could have cut off the payments, but not checked a box.
Very plausible, right? I think people are very quick, myself included, right? Because the government sucks. Everyone is very quick to jump to the worst possible conclusion. Now, is all 3.5 million people between the ages of 140 and 149 not receiving a fraudulent payment? No, probably not. There's probably quite a bit of fraudulent payments going on. But to just sit here and say 3.5 million people in that one age range because they're registered as being still alive in the system, they're automatically receiving payments. I don't know, you can't say that, right? Maybe it's 90%, right? Maybe it's 3 million out of the 3.5. And maybe it's 90% of every category, right? So, the 4 million people registered between 130 and 139. Maybe it's 3.5 actually are getting payments. The fact of the matter is we don't know. Right? We don't know what the number is. Um, but it ain't zero. I'll tell you that, right? So again, I fight the urge. I have to fight the urge sometimes to immediately assume the worst, right? So just like a quick math here, right? If you go four and a half, three and a half, and three and a half is seven, um, 11, 12, 16, call it 19. You're looking at roughly 20 million people over the age of 100. So of that 20 million people that are registered as being alive in the Social Security database, how many of them are receiving payments? I don't know, right? Maybe it's 15 million, maybe it's 19 million, right? Like maybe it's very close, like, but we don't know. But we do know that any payments that are going out are 100% fraudulent, right? Like that one person that's registered as being 360 years old, which I don't even think the country is 360 years old yet, is it?
No, it's not even 300 years
Yeah, we
old.
just had our bicentennial in the 70s. That was the whole Dazed and
Yeah,
Confused. So the country isn't even 300 years old yet.
not even 250.
Yeah, but there's
Next year,
someone,
next year it's 250.
yeah. Yeah, but there's one person that registers 360 years old. If are they is that entity, right? Is that person is that person receiving a check? I don't know. If they are, that's fraud, right? So I can't
I got a
speak.
neat, I got a stupid question. No, I keep going. Sorry. I
Yeah,
have a stupid question, but I'm going to ask the world.
so I can't speak specifically to the amount of fraud, right, that's happening. But there for sure is quite a bit of fraud. Again, 20 million people registered over the age of 100 that are alive, when in reality, there's 100,000. There's 100,000 people over the age of 100 that are alive.
Here's a test question. When do you think Social Security was established?
Um, Probably either like in the late 20s, early 30s, maybe 1933, maybe was
Ooh,
FDR.
not bad, dude. 1935.
Yeah.
So if the system started in 1935, how would someone who, I mean, again, what I'm about to say is preposterous. So if it started 90 years ago in 1935, how would someone, even who is like 150, how would they be eligible for a program that didn't exist?
Well, they're eligible now. That's the thing. So you're eligible for Social Security, I think, at 62 and a half years old. Um, or if you're under 62 and a half, there needs to be some sort of circumstance, a qualifying circumstance to allow you to receive Social Security, right? So, like when I was a kid and my dad died, my mother was allowed to receive Social Security for me because I was under the age of 18, right? And she was a single parent or a widow, right? Because I don't know if it's as simple as being a single parent, right? Because if do have a you do know who the the father or the mother or the child is, that's when child support would come into play. So I don't know the intricacies of that. But I do know, like in my situation, like I said, when I was a kid and my dad died, my mother was allowed to receive Social Security for me, right, until I turned 18. Um, so that is a thing too, right? So that's why, like, I'm not all up in arms over, ages 0 to 9 and 10 to 19 of that's, almost 80 million people. Like that's, I mean, yeah, it could happen, right? Again, I don't know the ins and outs of things, and maybe it is as simple as just being a single parent, right? Maybe you don't need to be a widow or a widower. Um, but yeah, they weren't those people weren't considered eligible at that time, right? You have to hit the qualifying criteria theoretically, right? To be eligible. Um, so the other thing that people are doing, right, assuming the worst, is they're saying that, and maybe there is some evidence. I've seen people claim that there's evidence, but I haven't seen the physical evidence themselves. Just the people are saying that it exists, that all of the illegal immigrants that were let into the country were set up with effectively profiles of dead people to receive Social Security benefits. So you have an illegal immigrant receiving, money, and in the system, it looks like they're paying someone who's 147 years old, but when in reality, it's an illegal immigrant from Honduras, right? So maybe that's the case, right? Again, I don't know. That's what people say, but I don't know for sure. I'm not a journalist. I haven't researched it other than, dig through Twitter, right, and see what I can find there. Um, but I mean that certainly seems like it would make a little bit of sense to me, right? If they brought illegal immigrants into the country and set them up with fake, I I I guess for lack of a better word, I call it a profile, right? Like it's a or a social security number, right? You give them a social security number of a person that's dead, that's all that would qualify, right? So then they receive payments. I mean, that's fraud, right? That's also fraud. That's not only are you an illegal immigrant, you are in the country illegally, but you are now receiving fraudulent payments from a system that was established to support people that needed help with money that are citizens of the country, right? So as I was talking through that, I did a little more Twitter search, and I found this. No, see, this actually isn't. This is again, this assumes that every single one of those people is receiving a payment. Never mind. Someone put out numbers, right? So they said 3.4 or call it 3.5 million people between 120 and 129 years old. The average monthly Social Security payment is $1,876. So they did like $6.5 million a month for that 120 bracket. 78 million, nope, 78 billion dollars a year. It's a lot of it's a lot of commas in there. But again, that's assuming that every single person in that bracket is receiving that money, which we don't know, right? Um, but like I said, there certainly is fraud, and it's being brought to light in one way, shape, or form. So I'm all for that. Um, to answer your other question that you asked before about what do we do with all this extra money, air quotes, extra money. I don't think we necessarily get anything back. I think I would be surprised if our taxes go down substantially, if at all.
It goes down.
I think
Nothing ever goes down. TVs are the only thing that's
it
ever.
does. Trump lowered tax brackets when he was in the first time. So taxes do go down. They inevitably go back up, but um, they do go down sometimes. So I think this again, air quotes, extra money that they're going to come up with all this. They're effectively just going to fire it at the debt, right? Like the federal debt is in the trillions, right? I think it's like 30
Nuts.
trillion dollars.
And even
So
with that too, if that's what they do with it, like this is the thing is like I know it was like it was condoms to whatever, and it was like that was probably bullshit, but that's fine. Um, but it's like okay, so it's like you find this, you find that, you find this, you find that, you find this, you find that. Like, what's the plan here? And that's my only question. Because I genuinely don't know, but I also don't pay attention to politics, so I shouldn't know the plan because I don't pay attention.
yeah,
But like, and I know like this isn't I guess it could be federal, but it's like, how about like a high speed railway from Boston to New York, New York to DC, like something like would that be like a federal thing that they could theoretically do if they chose to?
Yeah, they could, although they
They're not
passed
going to.
that infrastructure bill under Biden and then nothing came of it, right? Like
That's so weird.
they did all this just like Biden's electric car thing like that he passed and they spent like however many tens of billions of dollars and they made seven chargers, right? Like seven car chargers throughout the entire country. I think it was 40 billion. They spent 40 billion dollars for this program and 4 years later they have seven EV chargers. That's all they no one knows where the rest of the money went. So, yeah, so the US national debt stands at approximately $36.2 trillion dollars. So it's a bit reductive, but it's finance, right? If you have incoming money and outgoing money, if your outgoing money is higher than your income, you're going to rack up more debt, right? So just to use round numbers here, right? Let's say that the US brings in $100 billion, right? These are let's make it even simpler. $100, 100 units. Let's call it units. Make it even simpler. The US brings in 100 units, right? If they spend 110 units, right? You're going to add 10 units to the debt every year. Like we'll stick to a year, right? So every year your debt goes up 10 units. Well, right now, effectively, what they're trying to do is reduce the spending from 110 units to under 100, right? Because this is all well and good. If you catch all these programs and you cut out all this money and you get the US spending down to 90 units, right? Like you cut out what is that, 20%, right? Like that's huge. Now US spending is 90 units and the income is still 100 units. If you were like, oh, let's give the money back to the people and lower taxes, then the US only brings in 90 units, right? Or 85 units, right? Like, well, now at the end of the year, your debt is going to go up 5 units again, right? So that's why I feel like the odds of completely lowering or abolishing taxes is slim to none. Um, Because again, if you can get the US spending from 110 to 90 units and you maintain the income at 100 units, well, now you can chip away 10 units every year against the debt, right? Like that's good. That's how you pay down debt. That's how you get yourself out of debt. That's financially, fiscally responsible. Like that's a good thing. That's what you want, right? You want to bring in more than you spend so that you can pay off your debt, especially when you have debt, right? If you're quote unquote debt free, then you could theoretically live, paycheck to paycheck. You can as a country, right? You could bring in 100 units and spend 100 units and it doesn't really matter, right? Um, but I think that's again effectively that's massive oversimplification, but I think that's what they're trying to do. That's the direction that the government right now, under the Trump administration, is trying to accomplish, which I'm in support of. But again, that's the financially responsible thing to do.
But as long as it doesn't go elsewhere into just like spending in a different area or something.
Right. Yeah. And then at that point, like that would be absolutely ridiculous. Right. Then just burn it all down. Fuck it. Blow it up. Start over. But yeah. So there's just more and more things that keep popping up for this. They keep slashing, right? And people on the left and some Republicans too, right? Which is interesting. I've heard quite a few people on multiple different podcasts talk about this, and they make a very valid point. They say, you know, if this program is coming in and they're cutting all of this government waste, the people that are crying about it and saying that it's corruption are probably the people that are wrapped up in receiving some of that waste, right? They're probably getting a take of wherever that money's going because now they're not going to get that take anymore because the well's
Why
dried up.
why else would they care?
Exactly. I mean, it's common sense to me, right? Like if you have, you know, DOGE goes through and cuts some program and you have, six senators from Massachusetts, New York, California, and fucking Vermont, and they're all like losing their minds over this, oh no, this is terrible. This is gonna ruin the country. Oh, we're gonna set us back 75 years, all this. Well, there's only six senators that are complaining about this, and they seem pretty wrapped up about this. Like that's it's kind of interesting. Well, common sense tells me that they have a vested interest in whatever program that was, because maybe they were getting a little bit of the cut under the table in one way, shape, or form from it. So that makes sense to me, right? Again, seems like common sense.
You know what they say about common sense.
Yeah, it ain't so common. But now getting into a much more serious aspect of the Trump administration, um, which is going to burn people's ass even more. Trump is going to fix golf.
But did we not talk about this already?
I don't know. I don't think we
I don't think
did.
we did. Maybe
I
we
don't think we
didn't.
did.
Oh,
So
I mean, I've been talking about it because I think
I think it's
I think
amazing.
it is one of the more absurd things. Now, if you just take the personality away and pretend that this is 1954, it doesn't matter who the president is that year. Could be one of like probably two guys. But the president of the United States has been called in by the PGA Tour to help make a deal with the Saudi Arabians to unify golf. What the fuck kind of world do we fucking live in where that is the reality right now?
A fake one. We live in a simulation.
That is a joke.
Yeah.
It is so fucking absurd. And then anyone that supports Trump's like, yeah, but I'm like, I know what the yeah, but is. I know it. The guy is in golf. The guy is one of three most powerful people on the fucking planet. Like, loves golf. He's included he's involved anyway. Like, I get it. But that's the person. It's absurd that the faceless role of the president of the United States needs to figure this out. But it's like the PGA Tour, I've said it, the PGA Tour is treating him like he's fucking the Godfather. Like he's Vito Corleone. Like, yes, we come to you on the day of your daughter's wedding to ask you for a favor.
Yeah.
Please, Godfather, help us unify golf. And then he can just turn around and be like, I need some help. You're nowhere to be found. I have my golf courses. You take the tournaments away from me. Why now? Why now? Why now should I help you? Please, Godfather, we have no other options. We can't make a deal ourselves. That's what's happened. Like that dude, it is the opening scene.
Yeah.
And I
It's
forget
been
which I forget
two
which
years.
guy
Have
no,
they
live
been
live started in 22.
no, no, no. I mean like the reunification talks have been going on for 2 years.
Oh, I mean, that's fucking
And they haven't been able to
whatever.
figure out a deal, right? So it's been 2 years of, oh, a deal is coming. Oh, they're close to a deal. Oh, the the PIF and the PGA are close to a deal. And then I think it was last summer, was allegedly the closest that it got. And then Fenway Sports Group stepped in and like threw the PGA a bunch of money, and they were like, oh, well, we'll take a little bit more time to recollect and come back to the negotiating table. So it's been 2 years of, oh, there's going to be a deal. There's going to be a reunification. There's going to be this. I mean, that was the whole rumor of why John Rahm left, right? Was that they told Rahm that they're close to a reunification deal. So come over here, take your $500 million, and 6 to 9 months from now, you can just go back and play on the PGA Tour, right? Or you'll have status again. Um, so 2 years. The PGA and Live has been trying to come to a deal and they just couldn't figure it out. Trump's been in office for less than a month, and he's like, "Yeah, let's just get this done. Let's go make the deal happen." Which is amazing. I love that. I think it's fucking hilarious because I know it pisses people off, right? Like if you have like a, one of the, and because golf, obviously sports, right? Sports in general transcends politics. So you're going to have people that are, the crazy left-leaning golf fans. Are they just going to stop watching golf now? Right?
I
Like,
wish they would. It's fucking annoying as hell, man. I can't fucking do it anymore.
yeah.
And it's like I'm actually like super annoyed that the snob got fucking doxxed because I felt like he was all we had against the fucking left.
Surprised he didn't just make a new account or someone didn't
Yeah, I
try and
think
like, you know,
people are trying to like carry on his teachings, but
yeah,
um they're not the snob.
yeah.
That's ultimately what it is. Yeah, man, I don't know. I mean, it's preposterous because seriously, it feels like when the Undertaker, not Mark Calloway, the Undertaker in The Godfather, I think it was Bonacera, like he goes to The Godfather and he looks at you, he goes, "What? Not once you invite me to your house, like, and now you come here telling me you need justice." It's the same. It's the fucking plot. It's the plot of a movie.
It really
That's what
is.
this is.
That's a great way to look at it, actually.
And like it is ridiculous to think that he like everyone's treating him like he's the only guy on the planet that can do anything right now. And like he's actually defying my take where like, well, the president of the United States, they don't really like do anything. They say
He
some things,
he
whatever.
does.
He's doing a lot of shit right now.
Yeah, this one does.
He's doing a lot of stuff. I don't know, it's just ridiculous, but I don't think even he can convince the RNA to go his direction. That might have to be by proxy. So if he needs to get a deal done with the RNA and whatever, they fucking do not like him and they do not care who knows it.
Yeah,
Um, which ultimately the RNA really only runs the Open Championship.
right.
They don't run the DP World Tour. Yes, they collaborate with the USGA for the rules of golf and all that crap and the Ryder Cup. Um, that could be a problem. I don't think it'll end up, again, I don't think it'll end up mattering
Yeah,
because,
because if the PGA and the USGA both come together, what is the RNA going to do? Stand there and be like, yeah, no, we're going to like stomp our feet because Trump made this deal. And so it's like, all right, cool. So you're going to let live guys go to three of the four majors and they just can't play at the Open? You know what I mean? Like, that's just dumb.
well, then it's like, it's also a nothing. It ends up being like a nothing point because then if the live guys can get world ranking points, then it's a moot point.
True, true. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, too, it's not even like the live guys need to come back to the PGA Tour either. They just, like you said, they just need to get world ranking points and they need to be able to enter PGA events.
Yeah, but I mean, golf's still in like a shitty spot though, because I don't think what they have right now is sustainable. I don't think a fracture of talent
Right.
is sustainable for either side, really. Because
Yeah.
like, where is Liv supposed to get new people from?
Right.
Like, once this crop kind of like washes out. Now, I think they've got the biggest personality in the game right now in Bryson,
100% they do.
and Koepka is relevant enough to still do his thing, but I don't know how much more he's got.
it's almost like it's not quite as simple, right? Because obviously the PGA still has plenty of international guys, but the Live Tour is kind of crushing it with the international personalities, right? You have John Rahm from Spain, you have Cam Smith from Australia, right? Like you have Sergio from Spain too, which again, I know Sergio's old, but still like people in Spain go nuts for Sergio and Rahm. So it was like the Live Tour was trying to almost take the international angle versus like they almost kind of knew like, hey, listen, like we're not going to be big in the US. So like let's not even try and fucking push it. Like let's just stick to let's be the international tour, basically. It's kind of how I think they went about it, just off of kind of how things went. So
And I think that's part of why the PGA Tour did that deal to cripple the DP World Tour. Now they it was like pretty much it was pretty much a Trojan horse. Like, hey, we're gonna extend this olive branch, and yeah, we'll just take like your 10 best players each year. Like, that's cool, right?
yeah,
And like the DP World Tour, for whatever reason, said yes, sure, just pilfer our talent. That's cool.
yeah,
When in reality, they should have partnered with Liv way back when. And truthfully, had they done it and assuming competence in the management or the C-suite, whatever we're talking about here, commissioner, it probably would be beating the PGA Tour right now.
yeah. I have a question for you. Just a general question in your opinion, right? If Greg Norman wasn't involved with Liv from the beginning, do you think this would still be a problem?
I don't know. I don't know if it like I know he is a problem to
Because it is a lot to
some
assume
PGA
like
Tour
one
brass.
guy, like only one guy is going to be the issue here, but like that was kind of a big issue.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like he there's two reasons there. One, he hates the PGA Tour because
Right.
they fucked him over on the WGCs and something that he wanted to do. Um, Effectively, I think he kind of wanted to do live just years ago, and the PGA Tour was like, "Oh yeah, that's an awesome idea. We'll just steal it from you."
Yeah.
And that's what those WGC events were. And so I know he's had a vendetta against the PGA Tour the whole time. But like for Rory to like hate Greg Norman, it's like why? Like
Yeah.
Greg Norman's not that important. Now behind the scenes, for how much he does hate the PGA Tour, those negotiations probably didn't go anywhere because he was probably being a fucking dingus about it.
Right. And that's kind of what I mean too. Like if Norman wasn't involved in any of that, do you think we'd still be
I
at a
don't know, it's hard to
stalemate? Do
say
you think they'd
because
still need to go to the Godfather and ask Don for help?
I don't even know. It's so absurd that they had to. Um,
Because Norman's out now, isn't he? Didn't they
yeah,
remove
he's
him
not
as
this. I
CEO?
don't think he's the CEO anymore.
Yeah.
But I'd
And
also like to think that there's got to be more to it than just him. Like the fucking Saudi princes have to say like they're like, oh well, we really don't like Greg Norman. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? We're trying to give you billions of dollars.
yeah,
Oh yeah, but we don't like him. You're shitting me, right?
yeah.
Maybe that I don't know. Maybe that's how it went with the pettiness and again incompetence.
Well, because that was the whole rumor too when they removed Greg Norman as CEO, whatever, 4 or 5 months ago. I don't know. It could be a year ago at this point. I don't know. But whenever they removed him as CEO, everyone was like, "Oh, there it is. There's your sign. The merger's happening," and then it still didn't happen.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think Jay Monahan has shown himself as incompetent.
100%. He's got to go.
Um, I think the DP World Tour has shown themselves as not incompetent, but subservient. Like, dude, they gave Jay Monahan a seat on their board. The PGA Tour is their biggest rival, and they just gave in to them.
Yeah.
And back in the day, the European tour used to be like a formidable tour. Then the money got crazy, so all the guys came over.
Right.
That's the only reason they left. Like, not every European wants to be in the United States. I don't know how
Yeah.
many of them do.
Yeah. I
Like you've
mean, we
heard it.
saw a little bit in full swing, right? When they had,
Oh,
was
I
it
didn't even
Justin
watch.
Rose?
I didn't even watch. I didn't
I
watch the
think,
second one. Now a third one's coming out, I think.
yeah, third one comes out next week, I think, or something like that. But I mean, in season two, Justin Rose was talking about that. He was like, I think, it was either him or maybe season one with Tyrrell Hatton. I don't know. One of the English guys, their family stays in England. So like they come over to the US to play golf for most of the year and like their family will come visit and like they'll go home to England, but like their family predominantly lives in England still, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think Ian
It's like they
Poulter
don't,
and Lee Westwood did that their whole career.
yeah. Yeah, it's Ian Poulter, sorry, not Tyrrell Hatton. The other English the old English guy.
Okay.
It was Ian Poulter.
Yeah. I mean, I think Westwood did the same thing. I know Fleetwood lives in Abu Dhabi or Abu Dhabi or Dubai, one or the other. I think they're in the same country. I think they're both UAE, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, so he lives in the UAE. I think Rory lived in the UAE for a while if he doesn't live there full time now.
taxes.
Taxes, but
They don't there's something going on
there's a
about
tax thing.
yeah, with the
But
if you're
regardless,
living
that's not the United States.
right, right.
Like Moronk, the Polish dude, was talking about like not wanting to just strictly go to the US. It's lonely, it's this, it's that. Like
Yeah,
the same reason why Americans probably don't want to travel all over the place is the same reason that Europeans don't want to just only play in the United States.
right.
And it's again, you have the whole world,
Yeah,
the quote unquote DP World Tour.
yeah,
Like Liv should just go for again, seriously, Liv should just fucking go for them. Because the PGA Tour can't keep up with all of this.
right.
Eventually, someone's not going to pay the money for all these
It's
sponsorships and shit.
it's really a shame because golf is perfectly set up to mimic the baseball model, right? Of how you have single A, double A, triple A, and then the major leagues. Like you can have, which I think they do sort of kind of, but I don't know if they're directly tied. Like, you have like what is it, the Sunshine Tour or whatever.
Sunshine Tour is South Africa ish.
I thought there was one in Florida. No?
Oh, ooh. I mean, a lot of those minor league events are in Florida.
Yeah. But like that's the perfect opportunity to set up like small regional tours. Like there's your single A, right? And then, maybe you have a little bit bigger tour, like a Sunshine Tour that goes international, right? There's your double A. And then your triple A is the Corn Ferry and the DP World Tour and throw in Live too. And then your major league is the PGA Tour, right? Like the model would work for golf, but they just don't have it. They just don't do it, right? Like I think that's one thing for as much as I like to shit on baseball for being a dying sport and just getting worse and worse every year. Um, the model that they have for player pipelines and development, I think is great, right? And I think it would work perfectly for a sport like golf. Like it doesn't really work for a sport like football. Um, Mostly also too because college football is so big, like that's your AAA, right? Like you go play. And football careers are so short,
Yeah,
right?
they're
So
not long
like
enough.
like it sort of kind of works for hockey, but hockey just does a minor league program, right? And they have the juniors too. So they have juniors and then they have the AHL and there's also like the KHL. Um, so like hockey sort of kind of loosely follows that, but I really do think that baseball has um, the best program because each minor league team is also tied to a major league team, right? So you can go play for the Lowell Spinners, right? And you're in the system for the Boston Red Sox, or you can be like Michael Jordan and play for the Birmingham White Knights or whatever the fuck they were called. And it's like you were in the Chicago White Sox system, right? Like there's a pipeline for advancement there, right? Like you can be in I don't know. I just feel like it's a big miss for golf, right? Like there's no everything's
Oh,
too disjointed, right? There's no continuity, like there's no flow to anything.
well, I also think dude, there's just like there's so many problems to even start with. You can't even do anything. There's nothing. Golf is broken, dude. Like
Yeah.
it just is. And um it starts with there being too many PGA Tour events. But why would the PGA Tour give up events? Like to only have like, the All-Stars and then again, like this week they're in Mexico. No one's playing.
Yeah.
Patrick Rogers was 260 to 1 last week to win the Genesis.
Was
He's
he at
22 to
12?
1
Yeah, I thought
to
yeah.
win in Mexico. Pretty stupid.
Yeah.
And then, next week they start in Florida and it's like you don't even know like I used to know the schedule pretty good. Don't know the schedule anymore. I used to know most of these guys. They never play.
Yeah.
And it's like the PGA Tour is a tour of guys that don't want to play golf.
Yeah.
All they're trying to do is not play.
You have the top guys now, like the top. All they do is just play the signature events. Right.
I
Like
mean,
maybe
it
if
ends up
and
being like
obviously the
20 because it's
playoffs, right?
it's
And
eight signatures, the players, four majors, so that's 13. Three playoffs is 16.
and then
I'm missing
they'll sprinkle in.
I'm definitely missing I'm missing something. The number should get to 14. I forget what I'm missing. Doesn't matter. Um, yeah, so it should get to 14, and then it's like you sprinkle in like six other events.
Yeah.
So like, when they go
Oh, the
to and that
Scottish. I feel like a lot of guys play the Scottish Open the week before the Open.
yeah, and then it's like now I don't even know like all right, well, what's a signature event? What's not a signature event? So now Florida, they've got the players, they've got Bay
Well, they
Hill,
keep
they've
moving
got
them too.
the
Like
Copperhead.
last year, the waste management was a signature. This year it wasn't, right? Like they
Yeah,
move the
like it's
signature events
moving it.
around.
I don't know, man. It's like not that good anymore. I don't know.
Yeah.
Doesn't give me a lot to like look for. Yeah, and then like again after Mexico, it's like I don't even know. And then it's like, is it a event? Is it not? TJ National, whatever that event is now. I don't even know what it's called because the sponsor changed.
Yeah, Cognizant, right? Because
Okay, so the Cognizant Classic.
it used
So
to be the
I
Honda,
yep. I know the guys hate playing there, so no one plays that event. Course is
right?
too hard.
Right. Which is why they made it a signature, I think, last year and the year before. I don't know
Maybe.
if it still is this year.
I don't think it still is because it's got to rotate. And then like the Copperhead course, that's like another one. Usually it's a smaller event, so guys don't play. That's the Valspar, generally speaking.
Hmm.
Bay Hill's Arnold Palmer's event, so the guys will generally show up. But if it's not a signature event, will they? I don't know. Then you
Right.
mix the players in out of nowhere. And I think that's your four Florida events,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. Then you go to Texas, and
And
then you
then,
get
well, then after that, who knows?
then it's the Masters.
Dude, it used to be pretty like formulaic. And it was like you'd play the shell. Well, I think I knocked
Mm,
my thing out.
yeah.
Um, you'd play there, then right after that was at Harbortown, and like you would just kind of go. And it
Right.
was like you kind of knew what was happening. Now it's like all this shit, and you never know who's gonna fucking play. Sucks.
Yeah. I agree. But on that note, you want to wrap this up?
Let me wrap this up.
All right.
Um, I think I had a final thought, didn't write it down.
Okay.
So we are going to go with the absolute waste of time. So, did I tell you that I actually pulled the trigger on a new software, or did I
No,
just tell you that we were shopping them?
just that you were shopping. Yeah.
Okay, so we pulled the trigger. We signed up with them the last almost 3 weeks. We've been learning the
Told
software,
mind
getting
body to piss off.
yeah. So this is just how ass back. So this amazes me. So they and when I call to cancel, they're like, okay, well, what's the reason for cancellation? I'm
Your
like,
software
gotta be
sucks.
honest. The product isn't that good. Fine. It's not that good. The customer service is atrocious. I go, and the fees are too much. The processing is too much. Like that. I go, that's what put me over the top. The other stuff I dealt with for a while.
Right.
And then, it's some guy in a call center. And then they put me through to someone that's higher up. This is still, and like, oh yeah, you want to cancel? Yep, yep, yep. It's like, okay, and the reason for canceling, you guys changed the processing on me. I go, and then whoever quoted me on the processing also lied. So I didn't like that. I'm done.
Yeah.
I go, software's not that good. It's kind of fine. I go, and the customer service has been tough at times. And actually, and I think I said, I go, when I get through, it's actually fine.
Yeah.
It's getting through that can be a problem. So then they're like, okay, well, we're gonna schedule an engagement call to like whatever, and it's like it's one of those things like what they're trying to do is they're trying to save you as a client.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I get it. I mean, like it's one of those things like if I want to switch and you know, like even it was like so for me, here we go. Like someone says like, "Hey, we're not going to come anymore." And I just go, "Okay." Well, that person's gone.
Right.
But if I'm like, "Hey, like do you have a second? Can I ask you just like a couple things?" Um, you know, what's going on? Whatever. And then like, most of the time it's like a very normal reason. But I'm also not in like this type of thing. So they're like, "Okay, you're going to get an email." And they're like, "Actually, you said your name was Bobby?" I go, "Yeah." They go, "We have someone else on record." I'm like, "Yeah, there's two of us. Like, just fucking send him the email. I'm looking over his shoulder right now." And it's a link to like do the call. And at this point, I'm like, we're done. I had already told the dude, like, for the other company, like, yeah, man, just we're in. The call got like scheduled out by like two weeks, 2 full weeks, this like engagement call. So we had already signed up with the other company. We had canceled. They were gonna try to like fight to keep us, but like not really. In the call, like the client engagement call, 2 weeks later. Why if I was canceling and you were going to like work to keep me as a customer, why would you let me get out of it for 2 weeks?
Yeah.
And then it's like, so that call was today. And it's one of those things like I hope they don't I'm like I just hope I don't have to yell at anybody. And Chris was taking it because it had to be under his name. And there's no need for two of us. I was listening, but he also doesn't how to know he doesn't know how to use Zoom, so he didn't have the camera on. He had the camera out, but not on.
Yeah.
And actually, he wasn't even in the meeting at first. He never hit join.
That's
He goes,
awesome.
"Am I?" He goes, "Did I miss something?" I go, "I don't know." I'm like, "Yeah, you didn't fucking join the meeting." Um, and then they're like, "So it's like, okay, well, reason for canceling." It's like, "Yeah, we're gonna go with a different software." And I'm like, oh, "Okay, like, did they offer you something different?" They're like, "We're like, yep, software is a little bit better, seems a little bit easier. Our clients have noted that it's a little bit easier for them." They go, and the processing kind of fucked us. And she's like, oh, okay, well, I know, price is a thing. And, we actually have an offering that's, half the monthly fee that you guys are paying. Um, it would come with higher processing fees, but, you'd be paying less per month. And and Chris is like, yeah, that's all right. Like, gotta be honest, we've already switched. It's been 2 weeks. He goes, and I'm not interested in your higher processing fees. So it's just the absurdity, and it's like I don't want to. Yeah, it's like I'm. We've named them. It's my body. That's fine. I don't care. And I'm not dragging the company through the mud, but I am dragging the process through the mud.
Yeah. I mean, we're not,
Of
this isn't a big enough show to do any damage to
no,
the
and I don't.
company.
But I don't care because these are facts of what happened.
Right. Right.
Like I'm not saying anything that they didn't do.
Right.
And ultimately, you did change the processing. That's why I'm leaving. Um, but to let me get off the phone. Well, first of all, to fucking dick me around with, oh, hold on 1 second. Okay, I went to look at your account. I just need 5 more minutes. Go to another.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, actually, I just pulled up something and I'm checking the dates. And once I can confirm that, I'll be right back. Just 3 more minutes. And it's like, okay, yep, I got everything entered, and I'm gonna transfer you to someone higher up and whatever. And it's like, dude, this took like a half an hour.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm already ready to call the credit card company and just say any of these charges deny.
Yeah.
And then the second person gets on the phone, then they're like, oh, okay, well, we're gonna schedule a call with the engagement team 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
Like, you've lost me.
Yeah.
You've absolutely lost me at that point. And then when I say a big part of the reason was the processing fees going up. Well, actually, we have this other option, and it's half per month, but the processing fees are higher. Did you listen to anything I said? And so I mean, I know this was one of my flip outs, and I'm like, I don't think like, it's just like, I am not a sales expert, but I understand the tactics. I've read enough books, I've learned enough, I've done enough of it. Am I great at it? Probably not, but I understand it. And the whole sales thing is so ass backwards. Right then and there, they should have said, hey, we have something that's half off. Now, I already signed up with the other company, so there was no saving us. There was no saving us at all.
Right. Right.
But the process, right then and there, they should have been like, okay, well, we do have something else, and what we can do is we can, cut the monthly fee in half. And I don't know if they have any wiggle room in the processing. They might not,
Right.
but they're like, well, we can cut that in half, and we can get you a process like, what processing rate do you need? And if you kept it exactly the same, I wouldn't have gone.
Right.
I wouldn't have gone, and I wouldn't have said anything. But to again dick around and then fucking schedule a call for 2 weeks later where the woman had no chance. She had no chance whatsoever today. And it was just like, what a glorious waste of 7 minutes that was.
Yeah. I seriously. You gotta imagine, like, wonder how many they have to go through in a day too. And if they're all like that, like if they're all being scheduled
Like 2 weeks out?
weeks out,
That's so bad.
you're not gonna like hopefully this woman doesn't work on commission. You know what I mean?
Like
Like,
I'm thinking like I don't have like a lot of I mean, I don't have like a lot of services, but like yeah, I mean, I just like look at it. Like if I walked into my bank tomorrow and just goes, "Yeah, I'd like all my money and close all of my accounts." Don't you think they'd maybe grab someone and be like, "Let's have a talk.
right,
What's going on?"
right, right.
And like and be like, I don't really like your service. Okay, well, what is it about it? It's like, well, I'd like to earn more interest there, or I'd like to make some of this a little bit easier. I like to do that. It's like, I will give you all of that right now if you don't fucking take your money out.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I don't know. I was kind of hoping to do this, and maybe a percentage point there, or you know, maybe you can give me one of those CDs that says it requires new money. Maybe you can slide some old money in there. But I don't know. It was just that. So that call was today, and it doesn't sound like we're gonna have an issue. Because that was another thing is like, am I gonna have to call a credit card company and fucking issue a charge back and all that crap?
Right,
Doesn't look
right.
like we have to. Looks like we are out.
Nice. And the new one is pretty solid.
Yeah, I mean, um, it's so far it's been fairly easy to get set up. It's fairly easy to get info from people. It's fairly easy for them to download the app and use the app. That seems very easy. Um, the only thing that we are having a learning curve with is because the old system effectively just kind of like let us do whatever we wanted. This system doesn't exactly let us just do whatever we want.
Yeah.
There are some rules and some structure. So
Rules
working
are
through that.
lame.
Well, the only reason we did it the other way is because we could.
Well, true,
If we had
true.
if we had the new system's push press. I mean, if we're going to trash the old system, we may as well credit the new system. We're using push press. So yeah, it's like if we had push press for the last 10 years, we wouldn't have been so flexible with all this crap.
Right, right.
Now it's one of those things like I like things like pretty organized, pretty structured, pretty this, that. And some stuff just kind of hasn't gone that way, and now here we are.
Yeah,
All the athlete stuff is fine. It's just like the adults.
yeah. Ah, fuck the adults.
Nope, we'll just figure it out with them.
Uh, all right. What do I got here? Oh, um, I'll go with a quick one. So I found this out. I was listening to a podcast of Ross Patterson Revolution actually, before we jumped on while I was cooking dinner earlier. And I found out, shout out to mybookie.com. Use the promo code Sarcasm Speaks when you sign up to double your first deposit up to $1,000. Um, you can now bet on the Food Network on mybookie.com. So there's a show called The Tournament of Champions, which I've talked about on this podcast before, probably like a year ago or more. But Amy and I enjoy watching the TOC. Guy Fieri puts it on. It's like the best chefs from all over the world, effectively. Um, and they all go toe to toe. It's a competition, right? It's always in March every year. It's like the whole bracket March Madness thing. Um, but it's cooking, right? And I love cooking shows and I love competition and cooking competition, right? You just blend it all together. But yeah, they were talking about you can bet on the Tournament of Champions on the Food Network. So I thought it was kind of interesting because it's a weekly show. It starts, I think, the last week in February or the first week in March, one of those two. and it goes through like the middle of April. I feel like there's going to be some stuff that leaks. Now, unless they're only allowing you to bet on it prior to the season starting, right? And then once it starts, you can't make any more bets. That would make sense. Um, but yeah, you can bet on whether the winner is going to be a male or a female, um, whether a number one seed will win. Let me see if I can pull up anything else here. Um, the highest score by a chef, the over-under is 92 and a half, which is kind of bullshit odds because both of them are juiced to minus 120. So it's like, okay, cool. Like, pick a different number then, give me better odds, but whatever. Um, will a chef be disqualified in any round? How many male chefs are in the final four? How many female chefs are in the final four? So there's a lot of shit you can bet on there. But I just thought it was funny because they were talking about it on the show, and I was like, wow, that's kind of nuts. And I looked it up. I was like, yeah, you actually can bet on it. So shout
I
out to
imagine.
mybookie.com.
So I imagine how that works in reality is it'll be low limits. I imagine probably like $25.
Yeah, probably.
And I predict that many bets will just get straight voided for insider information.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I also don't have any money in my MyBookie account because I use legal books now. Um, but I would probably bet on the over 92 and a half for the score. That would be the only one I would bet on. But I'm pissed about it because it's a minus 120 juice on both sides. So
Yeah, I
like
mean, this
even
isn't
out
a
of principle, like I probably wouldn't, but
yeah, let's also not talk. I remember my final thought.
save it for the next
Um,
time.
it won't be relevant then.
No.
I was just gonna say take Canada in the hockey game, but
Oh yeah.
um, yeah, this is not a legitimate market we're talking about.
Yeah. Which I mean,
Food
I guess it
Network
doesn't
betting.
really matter if they have a $25 limit on it. Like the 120 juice is just like a middle finger to the better, right? Because you're either gonna, you're gonna win fucking, $18 or $22, right? Like it doesn't really matter at
Although
that point.
it's also one of those things like I know on Chicken Dinner they were talking about the halftime show and like how that dude ended up like with either winning or had like 47,000
Yeah.
kind of like
Some
risked amongst whatever many different ways and methods and he's like he goes my biggest win ever he goes it'll definitely be my biggest stiff ever because he's not going to get paid out on a lot of that shit.
yeah.
But his point with it was like he's like people talk about it's like, oh, well, how much can you bet on that? He goes, I know it's happening. He goes, he goes, how do you put a number on something that you know is going to happen?
Right. Right. It doesn't matter whether it's minus 110 or minus 750. Like I know it's happening. I'm going to bet as much as I possibly can on it.
Yeah. Now, I think that will be limited with Food
Right.
Network. So it's like, I don't know how many, you'd have to know a lot of people. You'd have to know a lot. I mean, even if it's, again, I imagine it would probably be like a $25 limit. And it's like, even
Yeah.
that, like, what, even if you know 100 people, you'd get 25K down.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a lot of work.
That is a lot of work.
And that would get voided because there's only going to be one or two books that has this shit. So they're going to realize like 100 people took one side, void,
Right.
insider info.
Right.
And like, do they know that there's insider info? No, but 100 people on the same side, yeah, that's a problem.
Right. Right. So that's going to do it. Thanks for watching. If you're on YouTube, don't forget to hit subscribe up above, hit the thumbs up down below. Subscribe if you're an audio only guy. Leave us a review on Spotify and iTunes. Uh, you can get us on Instagram at Sarcasm Speaks Pod. Twitter is Sarcasm underscore speaks. Facebook is Sarcasm Speaks. Check out the show notes, support the sponsors, support us. And until next time, good night, everybody.